Well, Nick, as you started yesterday on Tuesday, what were your thoughts as you went into the results show last night?
I was just really at peace, really, assuming I would be in the bottom two again based on the sort of historical process this season at least. And just really grateful for another, Tuesday night performance. You always get a big boost on Twitter and always wonderful to get all that love there. And last week during my Instant Save when I sang Ed Sheeran, I just felt this great sort of calmness and releasing any attachment to how far I would make it in this opportunity because it's just been so good all around. So I felt pretty calm yesterday going into it.
Well, top nine out of how many thousands of people try to audition for this show? I mean, that's pretty incredible.
It is. And, a long, long time ago before I got so invested in it, I was like, oh, I just want to make it into the top 10 and then get out of there before the contracts kick in or whatever. And, I didn't necessarily feel that way as I got further along because it was such a wonderful experience, but maybe that's what it was meant to be for me from the beginning.
Well, sure, the competitive nature in anybody's going to kick in where you don't want to go home.
Right. Of course.
You were really embraced, I think, by the public. When I would talk to people, they would always mention your name in terms of one of their favorites this season. Did you feel that?
I absolutely did. And it was such a wonderful validation for what felt like a risk to me based on sort of old mindsets of this industry, always sort of keeping my family and music separate. And I came into the show just wanting to be myself and people just latched on right away, even as far back as Blind. So it was this big sort of like warm, fuzzy embrace from, all the fans of this show sort of supporting me and my family so much.
Speaking of blinds, I wanted to bring this up. I think you are so gutsy. You do something that I don't think I could ever do. You sing an Adam Levine song in front of him. Later in the season, you sing a Blake Shelton song in front of him. That's pretty gutsy.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to sing a Christina Aguilera song, but I would have gone for it. It's it's cool. It's so cool to have the opportunity to be in front of these superstars, and I'm a big fan of both of those gentlemen. So to be able to sort of honor them in that way was cool. And maybe Adam wasn't feeling it during Blinds, but he seemed to come around eventually.
Well, I always like asking this question logistically. I know there are licensing issues and other things can pop up. Was there a song this season you really wanted to do and that you just couldn't do it for some reason or another?
Yeah, Justin Timberlake isn't really into licensing his music. So that obviously would have been like perfect for me. Pretty much any Justin Timberlake song. Even I try to clear like NSYNC songs like Gone and stuff, but if he wrote on it, he won't do it. So maybe it was meant to be. Maybe that's such a similar lane for me. We'll let Justin be Justin, and I'll figure out my own place in the industry.
Well, this certainly gives you a platform to pursue that. In reading your bio and watching this season, you started out as a dancer, and then gave that up to try to the singing career. What was the big motivation for making the switch?
It was always sort of ballet was something I had done so extensively as a kid. Like my pre-professional training was so intense and rigorous. I was in ballet up to 60 hours a week by the time I graduated high school. So even though I had a band as a kid, I was encouraged by my family to give ballet a real focus year my senior year. And that led to me having a contract and doing it professionally. But I was always the most passionate about music. So I would go to work as a ballet dancer and hand out flyers to my shows and try and get people to come to my CD release parties. And that was always the thing that drove me the most. So it was actually my wife, after a trip to Atlanta, we had met some people that were promising things that didn't end up panning out, but it was still this sort of like, oh, maybe there's a real career here, record deals, all these, sort of thoughts were new at the time. And she's the one who really encouraged me to sort of hang up the tights and move to Atlanta to pursue music. And that's what led to my major label deal. And I ended up still doing ballet as a freelance dancer, but definitely allotted much more of my time to music.
I think of it just like an athlete. An athlete's got only so many hours, so many years in their bodies. And when you play a really physical dancer, like a ballet dancer would be, you've got to start thinking at some point about what are my other options, because you can only hold out so long.
Absolutely, and that's a big thing you see even with some of the best dancers in the world. They, in their 30s, they have to be, am I going to be a ballet teacher the rest of my life, or am I going to go to school now? It's definitely, like you say, a shorter career.
One thing I love this season was the comeback. That was something they really haven't done, especially bringing four people back, because you had gone home at one point during the season. Just talk about the getting that call from Christina.
It was an amazing moment. I was really really bummed when I was eliminated during knockouts. Like if we were having this interview after that elimination, I would have been a sort of sad panda. Had so much invested time in the blinds and everything. It was really hard to go home so early. But interestingly, by the time that they called me back, I had again sort of come to peace with it and was sort of ready to move on and watch the season, eating popcorn, supporting my friends. So when the production crew came out to my house and they showed me the video from Christina, it was just this huge shock for me, because even though some of my family had said like, they're going to bring you back, why would they be coming to your house, to do a follow-up piece? Doesn't make sense. Emotionally, I couldn't even let myself play with the idea. So I was definitely shocked and moved. And I think that my journey on the show is cool. Both me and Daniel made it so far. It sort of gives this comeback thing hope, as being maybe a recurring thing that'll continue, because last season they tried it. No one made it through the live playoffs. So hopefully we can be the sort of archetype for a comeback success story.
Well, sure. It's not like the public voted you out, early on. This was just the last few weeks have been the chances for the public to weigh in.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. Really cool coming back.
And what I loved about it from a Christina's standpoint was she could have brought back anybody from her own team, but she was so enamored with you that she wanted her to give you a shot on her team.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a wonderful time working with Pharrell, and Pharrell's a big picture coach. He is full of really poignant phrases and metaphors that sort of connect your artistry as a whole. But going home and watching Christina's impressions of me back on TV, I was like, man, there really was a connection there. Maybe I should have picked her. I was like playing it. So then to go back and be on her team was really cool. And she had a very different coaching style, which is very pragmatic, very vocalist, approach of sing this here, don't do this here, try this here. And I think for me, that was really helpful, because I was certainly probably the least powerful singer on her, team. And, to have her coaching me through that, was really cool.
Of all the people that you met that were the other competitors, the other artists, who did you get along with the most? Who are some of your better friends now?
Well, definitely me and Brian had a great time. And it was interesting. We didn't have too much of a connection before I was brought back. After Brian came for season 9, his bring back was season 10, and he approached blinds and even those early battle knockout rounds. He really insulated himself. You never saw Brian Bautista. He was in his room. He was practicing, super focused. So he and I never really got to connect. As soon as I came back, when Christina brought me back, he and I just clicked and started having every meal together and, running together, hiking together, practicing together, giving each other feedback. So that was a great relationship. And then me and Allie, of course, his parents on the show, really had that great time. Our kids bonded really well. And then Paxton, ironically, even being up there on stage with him, he was definitely one of my best friends here, so full of light and smiles all the time. And then, of course, Adam Wakefield, and Justin Wisnat, we call ourselves, the band every time we get together. The band's back together. So we sort of party together and we're together pretty much every night in some capacity. So it's so cool, all the relationships I've made here.
And you'll be back for the finale to perform?
Probably. That particular list it's not like everyone from a certain group is coming back, so it's not officially decided who's coming back. But I think I have enough friends here that someone will invite me back.
Well, now that you're not in it, there's 8 people left. Do you have any kind of a gut feeling as to who might win this whole thing?
It's really crazy to watch the sort of landscape shift every week. I feel like Brian Bautista is on this huge upswing right now after Beyonce on Monday, and Adam Wakefield's just always been such a huge favorite of mine. To me, he just embodies true musicianship, true artistry, like through and through and through. And even though we've seen so much of Adam Wakefield's artistry, what you don't see is like being such a verse musician. He literally will help any other contestant with their arrangement and stuff like that. He's just such an incredible musician. So, those two are I'm really watching right now.
Well, listen, like I said earlier, you really, I think, reached a lot of people with your music and your your story and your family and everything. And I think people will miss you here for the next couple of weeks, but you probably got a really good long career ahead of you.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.